Recording in progress.
Today's board meeting for the Outreach Community Development Corporation Board of Trustees. For pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. James Riggs. Brittany Deal. Here. Desiree Spencer. Here. Travis Van Wright. Nicole Washington. Everybody should have the meetings from the last minutes from the last meeting in your packet. You should have also received via email if you have any questions, comments about it. Let us know. If not, I'll be approval of last meeting. We'll come back to that. We'll table that. Two will open up for public comment. Public, move on. Number 3, update.
Just briefly, on the property in particular, the new project is moving along, at great speed and are on track, even though we've had a lot of rain lately, we still are on track. In fact, our superintendent, Lance, has said that, he's gonna build the building for June 2022, so we were slated for July 2022. So they are moving progressively, pending that we don't have a hurricane coming through here, we should be fine. They will start pouring concrete on Friday for the gym. That's the first part of what they're pouring. I've been out there probably once a week on Thursdays. I usually go. And what I'm most impressed about is that everybody on the site, every worker knows what they're working for. When I talk to them, they know that they're working for JS Park, and they all on the same page about the children. I hear that from all of them, from the millers to the concrete to the dirt. So that is what excites me. Everybody understands what the goal is. We did have an opportunity to extend the back part of the gym with the weight room on it to an extra 1,400 square feet, which was a plus. The budget allowed us to do that, and so because of some variations they need to make with some plumbing, it allowed for extra 1,400 square feet of weight room, which I'm glad because it was tight. So that allows us to have a larger size. So everything is moving along. Today I met with Building Hope, and they talked about wanting to do something in terms of, not a groundbreaking because we already kind of do that, but some type of celebratory celebration before the ribbon cutting. So we were talking about doing it, signing a pole sign, beam sign. So we were talking about doing that somewhere around January or February, like we're doing enrollment to help boost enrollment for the next year. So, and then we're still gonna have the big grant. And I'll let y'all know, what we're talking about the day well ahead, so we can plan that. There is also going to be a event in the building with all of the board members' names. So we will get that. We will get that out to you all at the next board meeting. Verify names, the positions, and all that kind of stuff. And where we want to place that at. enrollment, just to talk briefly about enrollment, I'll talk about it as well when we get to the budget side, but we are fully enrolled from K to 12. We have a wait list of over 300. Probably the highest wait list that we've had in some time, even considering that, another charter school is opening. We have not had any issues with enrollment. We have not had any issues in our wait list. So, yes, definitely something to be celebrated. The only concern that I really have is our workforce, of course, our education workforce, with teachers being pulled, being that we don't, already are short, everybody's short on staff. So that's just a concern that I do have right now. So what I'm probably going to do is in the future, I'm going to develop some type of incentive plan, particularly for students who are already in college. Not necessarily people who are in the workforce now, but for those students who are in college to return to us, as well as those who are in programs like Call and Vista, to incentivize them to come and work, as first year teachers, because we do a really good job of training active educators. So that's the only concern that I have right now in terms of moving forward with the new school. Other than that, we do have some roof repairs. Walk outside, you'll see the roof from all the storms and everything that have happened. We have a roof repair to make. We already talked about that, but right now we're getting bids on those repairs. We're also still in the midst of the construction walkways for the new buildings. Had a slight issue in terms of quality, and so our engineers and architects are going back to have them complete and fix the quality of the stairwells in particular, so that they're safe. That's a safety concern. So they're going back to ensure that is done properly. And that's about what I have. Anybody have questions?
Thank you. I'll move on to monthly financial.
Right, I believe we got the financial. This is as of 5/31/2025. The first page, of course, is our balance sheet. And if you look at our total assets, we're at $4,140,000. And that includes our improvements. We still have land improvements that are still happening in terms of this building that are on that sheet as well. And at the liabilities, the next page, they come out to with our total liabilities at $829,942, and total liabilities and net assets at $4,618,140. So we are in good shape in terms of our cash flow. Accounts receivable for 5/31/25. These are federal grants, and if you have not heard, we are in danger of losing quite a few of these grants under our current administration. Title 1 through 4, as well as 21st Century, has not been renewed as of July 1. The department is looking at how they're going to fund that for the next year, particularly the title grants. I'm not sure about 21st Century. However, the state did embark upon a lawsuit to President Trump to release these rest of the grant years, which is year 4. We have it for 5 years because of the renewal year. We are taking action on that. We probably won't hear anything back on that for I'll say 2 weeks. But currently, right now, this funding that we're looking at right now is, of course, through June 30th. That's a 5/31 where we are. We do expect to get the reimbursements from the current funds already spent, but we are holding off in terms of our basing solely on that budgetary. So we're going to look at it in terms of not even going to happen and fund it from general fund. And if it does, then we'll transfer those dollars back into the. But total accounts receivable today is $328,888. And we still have quite a few outstanding deposits from those. Our statement of revenues and property. Right now, we are, of course, when we look at our current year actual year to date, we're at a deficit of 139. However, once we receive all of these budget increases, we'll be at a profit of 1.32 for the budget. The accounts receivable as of 5/31. I added this section on just because I wanted you guys to see what the deposits were. We have deposits top that says others. Those are the deposits that we received in checks or income in some type of way that wasn't related to a federal grant or the MIP. These were outside checks that were written. I just wanted you guys to see what they were for. Particularly the biggest one was for Building Hope, which was $150,000. And that actually was our deposit for the entire project. And that was outlined in our scope as well. And the federal grants for five, oh, that's a reprint of the previous sheet. And so we are going to begin doing our audit work this month. So we'll have our final audit at the same time every year. We approved, I think, the re-signing for the audit person. So we'll be conducting that at June 30th. We'll start in August with the audit. So we'll have that back in time for December. We'll have those final. The next board meeting we have will be 7/31 is what you. Any questions about the contract?
Prayers to y'all. I know how all these are getting ready for that. Like,
Yes. It's always a good time.
all right, we'll move on to number 4, time sensitive action items. 4.1, have a new board member. You have the resume in your packet. Would you like to take a second to tell us about yourself, Jamie?
Sure. My name is Jamie Foster. I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I've been living in Lafayette for about 25 years now. I am a staffing professional. I've been working at People Ready for about 15 years, and now I just got a new position as staff pro as an area manager. So I travel a lot now. I go to Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, Pensacola, and Alabama. Those are my areas. So I travel a lot for work, but I have an 9-year-old son, 9-year-old son. And I'm just happy to be here. I appreciate you guys letting me be here and help you out. Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about People Ready and what y'all do?
Yes, People Ready is a staffing company. We provide staffing services for blue-collar, like clerical, construction, warehouse work, things of that nature. And I had 2 locations there. I had Lake Charles, and I was also in one here in Lafayette.
Anybody else have questions for our new board member?
All right. Thank y'all for having me here.
Well, I would like to take a vote at this time. We have to be a roll call vote. Not for this one. So all in favor, I need to make a motion. Can somebody make a motion to approve the recommendation for new board member, Ms. Jane Foster? First and a second. All any nays? Welcome to the board, Ms. Jane.
Congratulations.
All right.
I'm sorry, are you at the location here?
People Ready location? No, actually they were on Congress and Bertrand, right across from Rouse's.
Okay.
Yeah. Now they were about 4 years ago. We were off of the Evangeline Thruway across the street from the Burger King.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, we were there for a while, but now we moved since 19, so it's about 5 years now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to 4.2, amended budget proposal.
guys last month looked at, we discussed the budget, we of course had thorough information on what these changes would be and what they would look like. And this is the amended budget for 24-25. The major changes, if you go across on the revenue for MSP revenue, you'll see that the budget for 2024-25 was at $5 million. The change is $701,298 decrease in budgeting. And if you look at this second sheet here, you'll see if you look at the student number in 2024, we were around 390, I would say. We started off with 425, and we ended up with a little under that. So that's what changed the $701 for the decrease. And then, of course, that affected our state and federal revenue. Our miscellaneous revenue was expected to be at $130,600. Had an increase of $21,457, which brought our total revenue to $679,842 for a change. That was a change in the budget while we have this amendment that we're making right now. The salaries, increased stipend certification and differentiated and fund income, and a decrease in positions. So some positions were not filled, some positions were released early, so it caused a deficit of $214,288. Increase in wages and benefit participation was $28,000. Professional services decreased at $34,604. Of course, we paid off our SBA loan and JB mortgage loan because of the financing with Building Hope. And then we had an adjustment to the general fund for utilities. And then the next line, student transportation, was at $72,659. And this was the actual projected, including fuel. The next line was food services, and we netted of $58,626. Other purchase services were at, insurance increased at $20,000. The other purchases services was $160,107. Materials and supplies, $82,018, and miscellaneous $800, a decrease of $70,406. So that brought our total expenses to $406,032, and the deficit was $1,085,870. If you look at our proposed amended budget here of $360, that's the difference in what we're changing in terms of the amendment. So we're going from $360,000 for that we were in a surplus, and we are actually at $1,085,870. So that's the amended budget. The next sheet you see here, the 25-26, that was the 24-25 budget. And now we're on the 25-26 budget. With the oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, so we have to vote on them.
Can I get a motion to approve the 2024-2025 amended budget proposal? I move to approve the 2024-2025. All in favor? Supremacy brain. All in favor? Any opposed? No. All right, we'll go ahead and pass that. Now, at this time, I need somebody to make a motion to suspend the regular board meeting for an open public budget hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Close the regular board meeting, move into open budget meeting, now we'll move on to 4.3.
All right, 4.3 is 25-26. This is a budget highlight and some of the changes that will be in this year's budget. The proposed budget includes income of $1,527,514, and that's based on having a student count of 480 students. We're projected right now, we have 495 students on the roster, but we always do a lower number just to ensure that we're meeting the budget. Proposed budget includes a total expenses of $6,488,000, with a surplus of $39,449. Of course, that number will change as we go along throughout the school year, keeping the 480. You can see how our enrollment has changed from this chart from 2015 all the way up to 2/1/2025. We have made a significant increase in our enrollment that have been steadily increasing as the years have gone. Our expenses that are changing, of course, with new students, we have to bring on new staff. So we have 4 new staff that are added to salaries with job responsibility changes at $272,600. Our purchase professional services with SLCC change based also on the number of students that will be taken. Our purchase property services with the building repairs that we've already talked about. We set aside $301,000 for those proposed repairs. I don't think we're going to spend that, but we have set that aside as what we projected the cost to be. But I've got some bids in, and I don't think we're going to get that. Materials and supplies based on project needs, equipment same, miscellaneous, expect to be the same. And our indirect costs, of course, is based on what the State Department gives us. So that's really the significance and the change. Of course, is our building repairs and the increase in salaries for the number of students that we have. Also, just to highlight this year, part of that new staff is we have 2 staff members who are coming from the Philippines. We also have a new staff member who is going to be teaching for us. So we are broadening our horizons, exposing our students to cultural, helping them to be culturally aware and gain access to many different plethora of, countries. And giving them that exposure and access. So we're excited about that. Any questions on the new proposed budget? Of course, if there's some amendments to make, we will make those amendments, at the end of the year, just like we did for this budget amendment, to see where our total expenses are and what we need to cover it. So, if you have any questions, I'll open it up.
Questions for Ms. Tiffany? Can I go ahead and get a motion to approve the 2025-2026? No. I need somebody to make a motion to close the budget hearing and reopen the regular board. Hearing, reopen and reopen the regular board. All in favor? Okay. Any opposed? None. All right, thank you. It's okay. So now now I need somebody to make a budget, to make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 budget.
I'm making a motion to budget.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move on to 4.4, the 2025-2026.
I have to read the budget resolution. Okay, the following, the following resolution was offered by Jamie Foster and second by Desiree Spencer. A resolution adopting, finalizing, and implementing the annual operating budget of Outreach Development Corporation for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026. Whereas Ms. Tiffany Lewis, in her capacity as Chief Executive Officer of Outreach Community Development Corporation, prepared with the assistance of Lily Widow, proposed general fund and special revenue fund budgets for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026, which is accompanied by a budget adoption resolution. And whereas the proposed general fund and special revenue fund budgets, as shown in the Outreach Community Development Corporation annual operating budget forms that were developed and provided by the Louisiana Department of Education, that shows the revenues itemized by source and expenditures itemized by function as required by Louisiana RS 39-1305. Whereas the accompanying budget adoption resolution have been submitted to the Outreach Community Development Corporation for review and consideration. And whereas notice of public hearing on the proposed annual operating budget, notice of the availability of the proposed budget for review and such hearing, and a general summary of the proposed budget have been timely published on the website www.jsparkcharter.com. Whereas a public hearing on the proposed annual operating budget has now been reviewed and considered now. Therefore, be it resolved by the Outreach Community Development Corporation Board is hereby approved, adopted, and finalized subject to the following changes. Number 1, none. Number 2, none. Number 3, be it further resolved, the Chief Executive Officer of Outreach Community Development Corporation Board, Ms. Tiffany Lewis, or her successor, is hereby authorized and in her sole discretion to make such changes within the various budget clarifications as she may deem necessary, provided that any reallocation of funds affecting in excess of 5% of projected revenue collection must be approved in advance by action of the Outreach Community Development Board and a meeting duly noticed and convened. Be it further resolved that Ms. Lewis or her successor in her capacity as Chief Executive Officer of the Outreach Community Development Corporation Board is hereby directed to advise the Outreach Community Development Corporation Board in writing when 1, total revenue collections and other sources plus projected revenues and other sources for the remainder of the year within a fund are failing to meet the total projected revenues and other sources by 5% or more. 2, total expenditures and other uses plus projected revenues and other uses for the remainder of the year within a fund are exceeding the total budget expenditures and other uses by 5% or more. 3, the actual beginning fund balance of the fund fails to meet the estimated beginning fund balance by 5% or more, and the fund balance is being used to fund current year expenditures. Be it further resolved that the Chief Executive Officer of Outreach Community Development Corporation Board, Tiffany Lewis, or her successor shall certify completion of all actions required by Louisiana RS 39-1306 by publishing notice of the minutes of on the website www.jsparkcharter.com. This resolution having been vote thereon was as follows. Ayes 4. Nays 0. Abstaining 0. Absent 3. Thank you all very much. And we'll move on to 4.4, 2025-2026 employee handbook. There are some changes in the handbook. I think you have the sheets that were changed. Just a few changes that were recommended. One is page 46. Okay, 5.5, personal and company provided portable communication devices. Page 46. Oh. just talking about when employees use their personal communication devices, that they will be required to submit the device to the IT department for resetting on or before their last day of work. So if somebody comes in and they want to use their own computer for to conduct business with the students, if they have student information on there, it has to be cleaned out by IT department. So that they don't have our student information on it. If it's our computer, they automatically clean it before they give it to the next person. That's pretty much what that says. Question about that? And then the next one is on page 52, travel expense reimbursement. J.S. Clark shall reimburse employees and members for expenses incurred while on official school business within budgetary limitations. Ms. Francis will talk about this a little bit further and what that change looks like in terms of reimbursement.
Basically, when our employees go on a travel, they have to first get it approved before going on that travel. And they must leave from the school to go on that travel to be reimbursed. They cannot leave from home and be reimbursed for travel from home to the place and then back home. You have to leave from school to the travel back to school. That's the only reimbursement that they would be able to get for travel, routine travel. That's basically what it's saying. It's not much that changes in that area. It's just everything has to be pre-approved because of the grants that cover each one, each travel.
I have a question. So, in order for them, the only way for them to get reimbursed is if they come to the school first. Then leave. Like, if they're at home and they leave, go to, because I mean, it's easier for them to go home.
They can't claim mileage
Right.
from home to the
Yeah, they
place.
can put it from the
Yes.
school to them.
Yes,
Okay,
they
I just
can
want to
claim
make sure.
mileage from the school to the wherever they're traveling.
Okay, even
But-
if they don't come here first, they can still traveling from here to the location. Is that correct?
No, if they're going from home to that actual travel, they cannot claim reimbursement
For the mileage.
for the mileage, not for diem, but for the mileage.
Right.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
they have to be leaving from. They have to get prior approval before doing that.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's a state regulation.
yeah.
Now, they reimburse off the state reimbursement.
Yes.
Any other questions on those items? Y'all want to take these individually or? Yes. 4 through 4-7 all together, that's fine with me. That'd be a pleasure. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, the student handbook. Of course, you already approved the calendar. Page 5. Again, I'm in the Gateway campus, I'm sorry. Gateway campus. On page 5, what changed, this came about, 15-day attendance requirement. Even with a parent note, the absences or tardy is still considered an unexcused absence. It will count against the 15-day attendance requirement described below. So we had it at a 20-day notice, but state law says 15. So we changed it to being in compliance with the state law of 15 days. And then you see the cancellation out in the yellow. It says going to the first one at 1 to 4 days of unexcused absence. The parent will be notified via letter. At 5 or more days of unexcused absence, the truancy form will be sent to the district attorney's office. And after 15 days of unexcused absence, JSLA will request that student discharged for non. So those, since we changed to the 20-day, we had to also adjust the number of days in terms of. And then, the yellow part is students meet all promotion requirements, have excessive absence of 20 days or more, they will be sent to the SBLC, but we took that out because that student, it counters what we say for the 15. And then underneath right there, which says withdrawal for non-attendance, the student has been absent 15 school days and repeated efforts by the school to locate the student have been unsuccessful, then we would withdraw them for non-attendance. We did have that happen this year. We had 19 days. Came on the 20th day. So, that's what made us look back at the law, and it said 15. So that's what we Okay, page 7, makeup tests and assignments. This all goes back to that 15-day date change in terms of why there's some consecutive things that change along with it. Extended time for makeup tests and or assignments shall not go beyond 3 days of the student's initial return to school. We had it at the discretion of the teachers, and just to make it more consistent so that teachers don't have their own policies from room to room, we just made it consistent and going with the 3 days. Because that's the amount of time that they also have to turn in documents, pieces or notes or whatever as well. So that is consistent all the way. Page 10, children and youth and foster care education program. Questions regarding homeless. This was an update because we changed our homeless and foster care liaison. She's now Angela Guillory, was a part of our special education department, so that just lists her information there for contacting her for those homeless and foster. Page 13, under the final grades, Y1, there's a notation there for report cards. We changed the assessment value. It's still at 60%, but now 40% of that is formative assessments. And 20% is it should be 40% in that top. 40% is for formative assessment, and then 40% is other classroom activities. 25% is projects, and 35% is assignments. And that only changed. The biggest factor changed was assessments. And the reason why we wanted to put, I guess, less value on assessments because if a student was not successful formatively, we didn't want that to totally damage their grade because the teacher had an opportunity to go back and do some reteaching, some homework and things like that to reassess that student in terms of formative assessment.
And so what were those changes?
40, 25, and 35. So, in essence, we made the assignments almost similar to formative assessment. So that's what you're really getting into the classroom with when you're doing, it's not formative, it's more less formative, but you're actually getting to the nuts and bolts of what that student needs to be successful on those points. I think that was that was the last change. Questions on those items? Right now we're in the high school handbook. Page 14. Under dual enrollment participant eligibility for advanced academic studies. Number 1, meets eligibility criteria established by JSCLA and post-secondary partners. As you know, we have 4 MOUs with a variation from Grambling to Southern to SOC, Northwestern, and each one of those schools will have a different requirement for post-secondary entry. And so, depending on what school the student goes to, they have to meet the entry requirements for that post-secondary institution as well. So that's why we added the word and post-secondary partners. And generally, our students don't have an issue with that because we have such high criteria for them to get in dual enrollment. So they're going to meet this qualification. But we had to put the Just grammatical, sorry. May deem a student as ineligible to continue, I think it was a grammatical error. In some cases where a college or university may deem a student as ineligible to continue taking courses due to failure in the courses, which could result in them discontinuing enrollment in dual enrollment programs. And that's basically if a student is not successful in those courses and the university has a criteria that if they make a DRF, then they will no longer be eligible. All colleges don't have that, but in particular for Grambling and Southern, SLC has that requirement. So that's why we put that to make sure that it was clear about eligibility to continue in those dual enrollment courses. Any questions around? Okay, page 17, attendance. Students who are not in class with their homeroom teacher at 8:45 a.m. fail or tardy. I think we had 8:30 there before, and high school has an adjustment to their daily schedule, so that if the tardy bell is at 8:45. That's all for the handbooks. Do you want to go through accounting policy? Okay. Accounting policy for 25-26. The state bid law just recently changed, and so that's the reason why you see those changes there. Now, all purchases of any material or supplies exceeding the sum of $60,000 must be advertised twice, at least 15 days prior. That still remains the same, just that the amount changed in terms of what needs to be bidded out in terms of materials and supplies. For purchases of materials and supplies between $30,000 and $60,000, at least 3 phone quotes or facsimile quotes must be obtained and kept as part of the purchase file. Also, the last bullet, all contracts for public works, i.e. labor and material contracts exceeding the sum of $250,000 must be advertised. That amount did increase from the previous bid law, so we wanted to make our documents inclusive with those laws as well. On page 10, the procurement methods for A, procurement by micro purchases. Procurement by micro purchases is the acquisition of supplies or services, aggregate dollars amount of which does not exceed the micro purchase threshold of $10,000. So that amount changed to $10,000. I think it was $5,000 before. And also in B, simplified acquisition threshold changed to $250,000, and it was $150,000. Questions in that? We did have our accountant review the policy, any changes and updates. Those are the only changes they can. Yes, it is, ma'am. Her name. Oh, your first name.
My first
Yeah,
name,
first
yeah.
name. We will correct that. Okay, pupil progression. On page 5, under elementary programs of study requirements, this section was added in order to be eligible to receive grades. Elementary students shall be in attendance a minimum of 6,120 minutes, equal to 167 6-hour days a school year. High school students shall be in attendance of 30,000 minutes, which is 83.5 6-hour school days per semester, or 60,120 minutes, equal to 167 hours school day. Exception shall be made only after review by the SBLC. That changed by 1 day, so we had to. Page 6, students shall under grade kindergarten additional consideration. Students shall be in attendance a minimum of 170 days a school year. Students can be absent no more than 10 instructional days in the school year to be eligible for promotion. That should read 15, I'm sorry. You can make that correct. That should read 15. Got 2 minutes. Yes. So it should read, students shall be in attendance a minimum of 167 days in the school year. Students can be absent no more than 15 instructional days in the school year to be eligible for promotion. And that goes back to what we changed in the handbook for the 15 days, would be automatic withdrawal. Under LEAP 2025, LEAP 2025 is the Louisiana Standardized Test administered to 4 through 12. I think we had 3 in there, and this year changed to 4th grade. The first grade just take it. On page 7, grades 1 through 8, the weighted grade system talks about that. Assessments should be at 40%. 35 would be formative with 5%. If I can take the one off, and interim assessment. And that is our interim lead test. So when students take the interim lead test, it becomes part of their formative assessment. I don't think that's right, but that's not right. It's graded 1 for 8. I'm gonna come back to you all with page number 7 correction. And we'll just come back to that one page with an amendment on it. That's the only page that needs to change, so I'll bring that back to you all. If we can have a motion to table this until our next year.
Any questions?
So approving 4.4. Yes. Chair.
So I need a motion to approve, agenda items 4.4 to 4.6.
We approve 4.4.
Second, please. All in favor? Any opposed? None. Can I get a motion to, do I need a motion to? Okay. I need a motion to table item 4.7 to 25 pupil progression plan, noting that, 7 will be reviewed by administration. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. Now we'll move on to 4.8, which is the annual financial report engagement letter, but I would like to ask for a motion to table this entire next meeting. Yeah, no more.
I move that we table the annual financial engagement letter.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? On to 4.9, contract. Okay, can I get a motion to go into executive session for? Second? You perfect.
That wasn't supposed to be out there.
I'm sorry. We got a first and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We're now in
Have to
executive
pause.
session.
Pause or in?
Pause.
She said me. You have to do it at me.
Okay, the motion.
And no